Hey, it's good to be back with you here Thursday, April 24th, 2025. Feeling a little bit more energized. I think many of you might be too. We're going to wait to see as people join us here today on the DPB show. Once again, go out to Rumble, YouTube, Rumble, YouTube, X, and Facebook. We are on all those platforms via StreamYard. We go live 4 to 5 Tuesdays and Thursdays. Like, subscribe, let your friends know. Folks, we've got a lot of work to do going into 2026, and that's what we're going to talk about a little bit today on the show. If you were with us on Tuesday, had Darren Bailey here. Go out, look at Darren Bailey's Facebook Lives. He's nailing it, talking about what we talked about on Tuesday. Obviously, what brings a little bit of hope and a little bit of excitement to us is Dick Durbin, Senator Dick Durbin, the longest serving senator currently, has decided not to seek re-election for his Senate seat here in Illinois. So what does that look like walking out? After what we covered the other day, talking about there's only one way, only one path to victory, and that is that Illinois Republicans, especially in Cook County being the largest county of Republicans in the nation, the second largest county next to Los Angeles County, but the largest county for Republicans, we're going to have to get a turnout. Not 30%, not 40%. We're going to have to get 60, 70% turnout of Republicans. The low propensity Republicans, we know that you're out there. We have to go to work and make sure that those folks are either getting a vote by mail ballot, whether they're going to early voting or whether they're showing up on election day. Those are the three critical things. It's no different than what the Trump administration did, or the Trump campaign, I should say. Trump campaign had bank the vote. They had get your vote by mail ballot. If you can't get yourself to your polling place before election day, or go on election day, too big to rig. We want to make sure that there's enough lead going into election day that it scares, the Democrats. They can't recover if they haven't done the work on the front end, because election day usually doesn't bode well for them. So we got Dick Durbin. We've got our own congressman here in Illinois, Darren LaHood, who is mulling it over, contemplating whether he's going to seek the U.S. Senate seat. That creates a whole lot of opportunity. We have still, once again, it's something to talk about. What do we need to do walking this thing forward? I do have a special guest on the show today. Didn't make a pre-announcement of this, but it is Jim Rule. He is the chair of Tazewell County. Tazewell County is the county just to the west of McLean County. And excuse me, sorry, didn't get the cough button. But Jim is one of the few, as Darren talked about the other day. There's only a few people that you actually can encounter, it seems like these days, where when you sit with them or you talk with them, you're getting the full truth and nothing but the truth. So help you God. Not playing politics, because it's not about whether we propel ourselves to the next level. It's about truly doing what's right in order to return Illinois to the land of Lincoln, rather than the land of make-believe that it has been made out to be for decades. That's the only way we're going to get away from it. Welcome my guest here today, Jim Rule. Jim, it's good to see you.
Hey, thank you, David Paul, for having me. I appreciate it.
Well, nice, Jim, obviously you got a little recap of the show.
Yeah.
I've got a little tickle in my throat, so a little agua. But Jim, I guess let's tackle it first and foremost. This big announcement, Senator Dick Durbin.
Yeah, it's a long time coming. He's 80-something years old. It should have happened a long time ago. But I also am hopeful that Congressman LaHood is mulling this over seriously. I think he would have a strong support throughout the state. And I think he could do it. I think he could pull off a win. I really do. He's made a very positive name for himself among conservatives throughout the the district that he's in now, and even beyond. And his work in Washington D.C. on the various committees that he sits on, the guy knows what he's doing. So I think he'd be good in the Senate. I really do.
Well, Jim, I'm glad you speak into the success that Darren has. Darren has never lost an election since he sought his congressional seat. In fact, I don't think Darren's ever lost an election when he ran for the state Senate. I don't believe, was Darren in the House at one time? I think he had just gone right into the Senate.
Yeah, here in Illinois.
Yeah, I know his road. I know his road was after Aaron Schock,
right?
And he ended up going into the seat, the congressional seat. At that time, it was the 16th. Now,
yes.
no, it was the 17th. It was the 18th. Was it the 18th? And now he's in the 16th because the 17th is the gerrymandered district. But Darren has always, the margin of victory for Darren LaHood, he averages well over, I think it's like 78% in all of his elections, all of his races. So even within that district, and granted, there are the radical leftists out there that if you go to his Facebook page, it's comical. It's what you should expect. You want to trigger the left. If you're not triggering the left, then chances are you're not doing something right. But Darren is an ideal candidate. So here's what my thought is, Jim, and I want to get your opinion on this. And believe me, guys, we're not giving away deep secrets of what potential strategies can be, because there are a lot of people out there that are mulling this over, looking at it, political strategists, consultants, and political parties. Obviously, Jim and I are both affiliated with our local GOPs, Jim being a chair, myself being a vice chair at large. So we're all talking about this, and especially since our counties have part of Darren's congressional district, and then, of course, all counties in Illinois are part of the United States Senate seat. So here's my thought, Jim, and this is what I want to pick your brain on.
Not much there to
pick. So, well, you're right, because we get picked on all the time, and you obviously serving our country understand what it's like to be in pain, suffering, sorrow, and all those things. You get beat up, but when we have an opportunity, something actually positive on the horizon, like what happened November 5th of 2024, where President Trump had a resounding victory over Kamala Harris, we don't even want to begin to think what life would be like with Kamala Harris, Tim Walz presidency. But here's my thought. LaHood, obviously, Congressman LaHood. See, don't be sloppy, David. He's served, he has served, he has served, he has served. Congressman LaHood has, like you just pointed out, he has served the people of Illinois very well. He has also been a big part of the national party when it comes to the House of Representatives. So the National Republican Congressional Caucus, the NRCC, did I say that correctly?
Yes.
Well, the NRCC, obviously, Darren is, I think he's has a position fairly high up.
Yeah, he's like a treasurer. He's like the treasurer of that. Yeah.
So Darren has always helped in positioning people to run for congressional seats across the nation. Obviously, much bigger, 435 members of Congress, or member of the House of Representatives, 100 members in the Senate. Darren has obviously made some good inroads. not only as a Republican, but probably across the aisle. Do you think with Darren, if Darren, and I'm not speaking for Darren, uh, I'm hopeful that Darren gets in because I do believe it provides an opportunity that we haven't seen before in Illinois uh, to have a Christian conservative Republican seeking that Senate seat, because the last person on our side of the aisle that held that seat, and we're going to get to this to that in a moment, is Mark Kirk, who was a self-professed social liberal, fiscal conservative, who got shellacked by Tammy Duckworth in 2016. So Darren has the following amongst his House members. I'm sure that very popular. That comes with a certain amount of financial support. The Senate comes with a certain amount of financial support. What can we do on a statewide basis in an election year when not only is a U.S. Senate seat in play, and the last time that happened, I think it was in 22? Mark Curran was in against Mark Curran. Yeah, was in with Darren Bailey. Yeah. No, it was Kathy Salvi. I'm sorry. Mark was in 2020. Kathy Salvi was our Senate candidate in 2022. Darren brings the eyes of Washington, D.C. I know that J.B. Pritzker has poked and poked. Tammy Duckworth continues to poke and poke. Just follow Tammy on her social media. She, like Governor Pritzker, can't post something without using Trump's name. So when you talk about Trump derangement syndrome, we have two people, definitely. Dick Durbin, not as much. Dick does it a little bit, but nothing like Governor Pritzker and Senator Duckworth. So I know this is getting a little elongated. Is this a run-on question? It's a run-on question, not a run-on sentence. But so he brings this focus back to Illinois because he now, as a sitting congressman, decides to get that seat. Does it not open the door for a solid gubernatorial candidate who could also ride that wave, and anyone who decides to seek a state treasurer's position, comptroller, secretary of state? It really gives us an opportunity that we haven't had in a long time. And I know Darren Bailey on his Darren Bailey Daily Live was speaking into finding someone to run in every seat. That wasn't the discussion we had on Tuesday. This was yesterday. He now has a renewed sense of hope too. That, wow, if indeed Durbin is no longer in play and that seat is up, I can only imagine who might seek it on the Democrat side. I think Pritzker still would like to be considered a nominee for president, but that doesn't matter because Obama did not serve out his entire term as a U.S. senator. He jumped in and became the nominee, the presidential nominee. So Pritzker could be the nominee. Obviously, for whatever reason, Jim, and you tell me, I've got a lot of questions here to ask you, Jim Rule.
Yeah.
You tell. Well, let me back off that, but let's think about this with who the successor is on the Democrat side. What says you about the new renewed sense of hope with what could happen if Darren LaHood gets in?
If Darren LaHood gets in, I think the wave that you talked about will happen, because there are, for one, Darren has the support of Trump. I mean, he was Trump's statewide coordinator for the first election. So I think that if Darren were to say, yeah, I'm going to run for this Senate seat, then we are positioning ourselves in this state to have some pretty, to have that wave, to start that wave and to ride that wave. But for that to happen, David Paul, we've got to have solid candidates that we can put into these positions, that we can vet and make sure that they are committed to winning. Because right now, that's our big problem. We have nobody that's hell bent on winning. And I think that if we can get Darren LaHood, if Darren LaHood decides to do it, he's gonna draw the attention of Michael Watley from the RNC, who's going to be here, and we'll get support from the RNC. We'll get support from Trump. I think that will put a lot of attention and thus a lot of money into this state. Because I tell you what, we can turn this state red. There are so many naysayers out there that say, oh, Illinois is gone, but it's not.
No,
it's not gone. We can save this state. We have to save the damn Republican Party first.
Yes.
But we have to save, but we can save this state.
Yes. And I apologize. I should have made that part of my monologue on the front end. I do want to get to the discussion about the Lincoln Reagan dinner over in Peoria, Tazewell County, with Michael Watley as the keynote speaker. But I do want to bring up this graphic because I shared this on Tuesday, Jim, and now you get to see it again because I think it really hits you hard when you see this. This is party control. And now my audience here is saying, David, you had this up on the screen the other day. Yes, I did. And here it is again for you. I'm going to blow it up so we can totally see it. So even when Mark Kirk held the seat as a U.S. senator, they had a Dem as the governor. Of course, it was, a different series. You had Quinn, and before Quinn was, I'm quizzing you here. Quinn had 2 terms, right? No, he lost his second.
Quinn lost the second one. Yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't a third term for Quinn. It was Blagojevich.
It was Ryan. It was Ryan was before Quinn, I think, wasn't he? No.
Ryan. But when was Blago in there? He was in there, I think, in 03 to 07, and then Quinn came in for the remainder, and then of course Rauner, and then now Pritzker. But looking at this graphic, Jim, we know what this graphic says before that. This is the party that we want to recapture right here. Granted, it still isn't a rosy picture because Mike Madigan, after longest serving speaker of a General Assembly, a state house, held power for 37 years. And the time he was in, which was about, I think, 39, he gave up control only 2 years, and that was 95 and 96, where they did not have the majority in the House. But for the most part, they have had the majority in the House since, other than 2 years, since 1992. But my point being, and what I was trying to get to, is you had a U.S. senator, and you've never had a U.S. senator and a governor. Now I'd have to go back in the Wayback Machine. I think there was back in before 02, we had a U.S. senator, and I'd have to look at that because Kirk was in there from 2010 to 2017. I'll do a little research and let you know who was in there prior to that. But for the most part, Illinois had a red presence, a red dominance, especially when you had, Judy Bartopink in there, the Secretary of State, whether that was Ryan or Edgar, for between Thompson was in there. I don't think Thompson was ever anything other than governor. Jim Thompson wasn't the Secretary of State. It's testing my mind. I've got too many players on the field right now. It's time to get back. Let's reset here real quick. But basically, Jim, what you're saying, getting back to that control, or I should say control, getting back to having a majority in both the House, the Senate, and then recapturing the governor's office, and then those other statewide positions like comptroller, Secretary of State, treasurer, and there's another one there. But lieutenant governor, I'm sorry. Of course, that goes with the governorship. But to get back to that position, I think what we know has to happen is that we have to mobilize and fortify each county. And that's what I really want to talk to you about today, is because I talked with Darren Bailey about this. How do we go about building out the precinct committee model in our state in 102 counties? The Democrats, they're bought and paid for. They have the money via the public unions, via the private unions, taxpayer-funded pensioners. They have a monopoly on that. They can afford to pay people to go door to door. They don't need their county parties to have precinct committee people involved. Not to say they're not involved, because they do. They mobilize and they get people to work. They get people to protest. They get people to do everything. How do we go about doing it, Jim?
I think one of the, it's a big ask, for one, because we've got over 10,000 precincts in this state, and probably in the neighborhood of 3,000 precinct committee people. So that's a lot of vacancies. And when you look at why people are not involved, I mean, the question may be, why are people not involved? And it's because they've thrown up their hands. They've said, you know what, enough is enough. There's nothing we can do. We can't win. The Illinois GOP isn't committed to winning, or they give off the appearance that they're not committed to winning. We have to change the culture in this state. We've got to change the way people look at our ability to win, our ability to take command of this state, so to speak. Okay, in military terms. Look, we can recruit precinct committee people all day long, but once we bring them on board, we have to train them, we have to support them, we have to give them something to believe in. And right now, I'm not sure that they have that. So, if we can change the culture, if we can change how we do business here in Illinois, and in the words that we say, the actions that we take, we can put some pretty good people into these precincts and get back to the basics of knocking on doors and making phone calls and getting to know your neighbor. And you know what? I've always said, people remember that old adage people always used to say, you know what? You never talk about religion and politics. We're at a point where we have got to start talking about religion and politics, and we've got to do it right now.
Yep.
So we've got to get people into these precincts. The precinct committee people have to have help. They've got to have somebody, maybe some kind of a helper, a co-chair, a co-precinct captain, something, but somebody that's going to help them. We've got a lot of volunteers out there, and they're just kind of wandering around with nothing to do, and we've got to give some direction to them.
Well, and as I told Darren Bailey, I'm not like other people in the party. I find I like everyone that holds a position, but it's not a popularity. I'm not interested in whether I like you or not. It's a matter of, are we doing things that work? Are we advancing? You said something, Jim. Culture.
Yeah.
People will stay with a company, or they will stay in a church, or they will stay in an organization because of culture. Money doesn't always drive everything. It's a sense of working together as a team. I can't help but think, the 12 disciples of Jesus Christ, they were all in. Most of them were martyred for the sake of what Jesus Christ did on Calvary. I mean, that's the passion we want. Darren and Bailey and I were talking about being in the foxhole. He said, boy, it'd be real easy to just put the gun down and crawl out and go back home. Because at the end of the day, a guy like Darren Bailey, he can afford the taxes. In fact, he can get a house in Florida like Bruce Rauner did, or J.B. Pritzker, He could live in Florida most of the year and not care or worry about what happens in Illinois, and still he might not make near the amount of money because he gives up the day-to-day operations of his farm. But it would be so easy just to put things down. Yours truly, as I've talked to you about before the show. You know, my wife and I have committed ourselves to being here in Illinois. Illinois is our home. And when your home is being invaded, when it's being raided, when it's being torn down, when it's being, in some instances, burnt down, you grab the buckets, you get the fire brigade going, you dig in deep, you secure your home. We have to have that same mindset that Trump had when he came up off the stage in Butler, Pennsylvania, and raised and lifted his arm above his head and said, fight, fight, fight. We don't have that fight right now. We don't have it at the state level in the party. I don't believe we have it. We have some good county chair people. Unfortunately, they're few and far between. And that's not taking anybody's inventory. Why you're in the chairmanship, that's for you to answer. But if you're not filling out, and you just gave the statistics, 10,500 plus precincts, and we don't even have 30% of those precincts filled with precinct committee people, what are we doing, and how are we preparing for the next election? That should have started happening before the consolidated election, right after the general election in 2024.
Well, and that's it. This next election is going to be here before you know it. We start pulling petitions in August, early August. The culture is so critically important. We have to create something where people want to be a part of something that's much bigger than themselves, and we haven't done that. Largely because we're not walking the talk. There's a lot of talk. There's a lot of rhetoric going on about what needs to happen. But when it comes down to rolling up the sleeves, getting out there and actually doing it, we've got people that just want to have a title, and they're not interested in suffering the slings and arrows, so to speak. Because I tell you what, when you go knocking on doors or when you make phone calls, you get the general pulse of how people feel in this state, and it's not good. So we've got to start changing that. We've got to start working together. We've got to mobilize our precinct committee people. It's a great army that we're not utilizing.
You know, and I don't, once again, I don't want to get into the drama and the personalities. Hey, appreciate you being with us here today. Joanne Knippmeyer is in the house in the comment section. I don't know if you can see that or not, Jim, but Sarah Froberg is joining us with me. It is a deep roots in Tazewell County. I was raised. This is Sarah Froberg on a dairy farm southeast of Tremont. My brother Tom and dad, Dwayne, are still farming in the area. You see those farmers out there. I'll tell you, this time of the year, my wife and I reminisce. It's now the planting season and the harvest season. Jim, we love it. I love to see those big machines cruising across the field, just planting the future, right? Planting the growing food for the world is basically the essence of what they're doing. So, Sarah, I appreciate you and everything you do. Obviously, a true patriot, someone who works her tail off. We're not talking about the Sarah Frobergs of the world or the Joanne Knippmeyers of the world. We're talking about, hopefully, if you tune in today at the DPB show, we're talking about you. We're talking about if you're not a precinct committee person, if you're not a block captain, if you're not involved in your Republican Party, that you should have been yesterday. And now asking you to be a part of it, I should be able to live up to how do we advance you and help you feel welcome, the old welcome wagon, right? Giving you a sense of purpose of coming. Why are you coming to the neighborhood? Why, how are we going to be neighborly? How are we going to make a friend, be a friend, and lead a friend to the ballot box? Actually, that's make a friend, be a friend, lead a friend to Jesus. But either way, they're both good.
Yeah. It is, and that's what we have to start. We have to start doing. I haven't thought of the welcome wagon in probably 30 years. It's been that long, but I remember it well. But
When you're on the DPB show, you go into you remember the little guy, the little dog. What was the name of that show where they went in the Wayback Machine? Sometimes you go in the Wayback Machine with DPB.
Peabody and somebody, I can't remember.
Stanley and Peabody.
That's right. Yeah, that was mold.
Yeah.
Yeah, one of the things that we've done, and we work with Surus. There's an organization. Joanne knows Surus obviously very well, and I believe you guys utilize or partner with Surus over in McLean County.
Yeah,
we do the same here in Tazewell, and in trying to find and vet good people to come onto the roster and be a precinct committee person. And then we've also developed some training. So a lot of times precinct committee people will come on board and they don't know what to do. They flop and twitch and not really have an idea of where to even get started. We've developed training, precinct committee person training. We did this through Leadership Institute. We've been developing this thing for well over a year, and it's finally ready to hit the streets. So we are going to be out into the fields. We've got 4 locations around the state that we're still working on pinpointing, but that will allow us to give people not only the knowledge, but the confidence that they need to be a precinct committee person. Because look, we've got to get out there, and we've got to get out there and hit it hard. And like you said, we've got to bring a friend, and get people involved, whether it's a block captain, whether it's another precinct committee person, whatever. But we've got a lot of work to do, and
so Trump kind of showed the way, Jim. And let me make sure I add this to stage here, and I'm going to blow it up a little bit. Trump showed us the way. This is from the 2016 United States Senate race here in Illinois. There were 5.4 million votes cast. Now, Illinois was a much bigger state, not too much bigger, but we've lost about 1 million people over the course of 2010. Well, I think those numbers actually went over the course of the last 10 years. So from 2015, but this is 2016.
Yeah.
But my brother Mark says that's Sherman and Mr. Peabody, not Stanley. I don't know.
That's right. It was Sherman. Right.
I was mixing my Sunday morning or Saturday morning Cartoon Network characters. It's Sherman and Mr. Peabody. But here is an example on the screen. We are the party, and this is what Trump created. Trump ended up with 2.5 million votes last November without dropping hardly any resources into the state of Illinois. But he was able to mobilize people with the message to get out and vote because it was a cause much bigger than themselves. And these are the low propensity voters. These are the guys that shower in the morning and shower when they get home from work. These are your electricians. These are your firefighters. These are your carpenters. These are your small business people. These are people who don't have time to show up at the local GOP and donate a few hours. Now, why is that? Because I don't know if we've utilized the welcome wagon to the point that they feel that they're part of something, because they obviously were willing to go out and vote for Trump. Here is the results from that Senate race of Mark Kirk, the incumbent. He actually had held the seat from 2010. This was 2016, and he surrendered his seat in January of 2017. Tammy Duckworth ended up with 3 million votes. That's more votes than Kamala Harris. Mark Kirk had 2.1 million. That's 400,000 more votes than Rauner would have received in 2018 as the governor in the governor's race. Tammy Duckworth outperformed Governor Pritzker in 2018 by almost 500,000 votes. So when people talk about moving the needle and how it is you can shift votes, because we talked about this, Jim, on Tuesday's show. Quinn lost to Rauner in 2014 by something like 60 or 90,000 votes, something like that. But he did not break 1.8 million. Quinn didn't break 1.7 million. Quinn went from 1.6 million, 90,000 votes. Or I should say, Quinn had 1.6 million, 90,000 votes. And 4 years later, J.B. Pritzker puts up 2.5 million. Almost 800,000, well, even closer to 900,000 more people showed up and voted for JB 4 years later. Of course, Rauner ended up with somewhere around 1.8 million votes that year. And then 4 years later, Pritzker against Darren Bailey. Pritzker puts up 2.2 million. Bailey has about 60,000 votes less than what Rauner had against Pritzker the first time around. But Pritzker ended up dropping 300,000 votes from 18 to 22. And I know we're getting lost in the weeds a little bit of these numbers, but I guess what we're trying to emphasize here, Jim, is the electorate can shift. And it did for Trump. Obviously, Tammy Duckworth, however she manages to get the support she does, she has it. We can sit back and complain about it, or we can truly try to duplicate it. I want to duplicate what Pritzker did in 2018, in 2026.
So how do we do that is the big question.
Yes.
And there's a lot of different factors that go into that. I think that low propensity voter is going to have to be a target that we go after using vote by mail. Look, vote by mail is here.
Yep.
And if we don't use vote by mail, then we're losing.
Yep.
We have to establish that as a way of life and get these people to vote, because they're not always going to show up on election day for whatever reason.
Nope, they're not.
And we can make huge inroads if we can just make it part of that culture to vote by mail. I don't like it any more than anybody else, but it's the way it is. And if we're going to win, we have, that's what the playing field says right now. The other question that we have to ask is, Trump made such huge inroads in this last election, but yet why did we not win down ticket?
Yes.
Because we didn't have that wave. We didn't have a strong enough candidate on the ballot other than Trump to be able to carry the rest of the ticket.
Yeah.
Getting back to the original conversation with Darren LaHood, Darren can do that. If we can get Darren LaHood on there as a candidate for the U.S. Senate, and we have strong candidates running for the other positions statewide. We may not win all of them, but you know what? We're going to start making inroads, and we're going to start winning again, which is what we have to start doing.
Yes, and winning is the byproduct of mobilization and getting the party to be unified. I know we talk a lot about, and you just said it best. I've said this until I'm blue in the face. We cannot. I love being a part of the Restore Illinois tour on Darren's bus with some of the guys from the Freedom Caucus. The Freedom Caucus didn't exist then. It came about just prior to Darren's primary in 2022. But these guys were the same guys that are part of the Freedom Caucus. We went out and we did this Restore Illinois. And we talked about the things that matter. We talk about taxation. We talk about the fiscal irresponsibility of the General Assembly and the governor of Illinois. We talked about where your tax dollars are going and how it is that Illinois continues to fall behind. And now if you listen to Governor Pritzker, he's going to tell you he's had 8 credit upgrades. Well, if you're 22 levels below what would be considered normal, 8 doesn't get you all the way to 22. It means that you're still in dire straits, which we are. Governor Pritzker is never going to be honest about it. I just posted this on somebody's social media page this morning. Governor Pritzker will never talk about the unfunded, underfunded liabilities as it pertains to the pensions, because they incur about $10 billion a year in interest. And we have yet to appropriate $10 billion for a full interest payment in our state budget. He would rather defer, keep it in check, borrow from over here. He won't provide the data that's needed by Frank Montino, which is his Auditor General, so that he can compile a report. So these are the things that the public should be talking about when it comes to these races. And Jim, your point, good, strong candidates. I'm tired of hearing about people stating that you can't win in a blue district if you're a conservative Republican. That is not true. First and foremost, I don't even know what that means. We are all Republicans. When people start saying that somebody is Republican in name only, I don't even know what that means, because you're either following the Republican platform or you're not. And somebody said, well, but the Republican platform wants me to be pro-life. Well, yes, I do. Well, I can't win the race if I can't win my district if I come out and say I'm pro-life. Yes, you can. How does that define you any different? I mean, how about the crime? How about the public school system? How about HB 2827 trying to basically steal education from the homeschool kids? How about taxpayer-funded abortion? How about taxpayer-funded immigrants getting every service that you and I can't even begin to think we can have? They get Medicaid, they get housing, they get everything paid for them. Those are the issues that we should be talking about. And if it comes up that we want to talk about reproductive rights, I think you should be strong, you should be firm, and you should say, yes, I support life from tomb to womb, womb to tomb. There you
Womb to tomb. Yeah.
I got you. We got to reverse there, Jim. But I support it, and I'm always going to support it. That doesn't mean that I'm legislating, because right now, as we put up in the graphic, you know who the party of killing babies is? It's the Democrat Party.
The Democrat Party, absolutely.
And so, you know what? I don't know what we can really do about killing babies, because they have got a monopoly on doing that. But see, what they don't tell you is that it's just not taking the life of a child inside of a mother. It's also taking a spiritual, psychological, or having a spiritual and a psychological effect on the mother, whether she realizes that or not. And I'm sure that she does. Whether it might not be the moment she has that abortion, it could be later on down the line, but inside of her was growing a person, someone with DNA that God created. And unfortunately, I don't think you have to shy away from that argument. Do you, Jim?
Not at all. It is something, believe in, it's something that it is who we are. And it's something that we have to stand proud on, and make it a part of our platform. And I do not believe that is something that we compromise on. There are so many that want to, but in order to win, but it's not something that we can. It has to be a cornerstone of our platform, and it is.
Hi, Dad. That's Hannah Kickless joining us here on the DPB show. Hannah says that 80% of the counties flipped during the presidential election. 80%? Well, I mean, there's 102 counties. So I know that one that didn't flip was the county that I reside in. I don't know if they flipped as much as they went for Trump. 80% of the counties went for Trump. And that, I'll have to look at that. Where'd you get that from? Hannah. That's an interesting. Oh, you look skinny, DPB. That's my daughter commenting on how I look on the camera. But I don't. I know that there was inroads made in a lot of counties. Unfortunately, in McLean County, we did not go for Trump. We went for Kamala Harris, which is, once again, the plight that's in front of us. How are we going to continue to win back the hearts and minds of people here in McLean County? You don't have that problem in Tazewell County, Jim, or even in your other counties that surround you, like Woodford. Now, Peoria is a Democrat county, correct?
Yeah, Peoria is a Democrat county, you bet. But I tell you what, you think back just recently, a few weeks ago, with HB 2827, the Homeschool Act.
Yep.
And how much energy surrounded that one issue. I mean, people were showing up into the Capitol building down in Springfield. There were witness slips. There was talk. There was buzz. We stopped it because of the energy that people had. And that's the type of energy that we have to continue if we're going to get these other, if we're going to start winning in other areas on the ballot, whether it be statewide, whether it be federal, whether it be local county elections. We have to start creating that buzz and getting that energy, so that we can follow Trump's coattails, and so we can follow and get people elected.
Let me interject real quick, Jim. Hannah called me, so I went ahead and answered the call because I'm pretty sure she wanted to clarify her comment. She said Trump flipped 80% of the counties during the presidential election. Now, say that again, Hannah.
80% of the counties in the United States of America. They were Peter flipping. He flipped them. 80% of the ones that were blue red. That's how he won by the popular vote.
Okay, I got it. So the popular vote. So Trump obviously carried a large percentage of the counties across the country. I think there's 3,600. Okay, so the reason that he had the success and the counties that were blue flipped red in Pennsylvania, in Georgia. I see what you're saying right now. Yeah, so 80% of the counties that were blue flipped red. Okay. Thank you for the clarification. So, see how she is? She has the right perspective. Get out there. She's launching her own podcast. She keeps her dad in check and lets him know when he's giving out information that might not be accurate. And I'm going to have to double check on that because that's interesting. 80% of the counties flipped during the presidential election, meaning nationwide.
Nationwide.
Yes. And that is fascinating. That shows you the momentum that the too big to rig put together, which brings us right into our discussion, Jim, because we're only about 11 minutes from I try to end things at 5 o'clock. Sometimes we go a little overtime, but Michael Whatley was a big part of that. He and Laura Trump. And now we have Michael Whatley coming here to the Central Illinois area. And that's the Lincoln Day dinner in Tazewell, Peoria. Tell us about that.
We invited Michael Whatley. We actually invited Laura Trump. But the day I sent the invitation, she actually stepped down as the co-chair. So she went, she's got a new gig now at Fox News. So I had to rewrite the invitation. And we're just as happy to have Michael Whatley because he was instrumental in Trump winning throughout the country and, getting as many electoral votes as he had and getting the popular vote that he had. So the Lincoln Day dinner is May 22nd. It will be on the Peoria or on the East Peoria side of the Tazewell County side of the river this year over at the Embassy Suites in East Peoria. And we are very excited to have him here. We're going to have a round table with him prior to the dinner, and we're going to talk about what it's going to take to win here in Illinois. And there'll be some pretty big players in that room, the movers and the shakers, so to speak. And hopefully we can get a focus on, the idea is to get Michael Watley's attention. And I think
because he is still the acting RNC chair, correct?
He is the acting RNC chair, and he's extremely involved. And he's got the RNC has a very close eye on Illinois.
Yes,
I mean, we know what Trump did. We're concerned that we didn't win any statewide races, but hopefully we can convince him and show him that we do have a plan. And part of that plan is what you were talking about. This whole thing is mobilizing our PCs. So
Jim, I will tell you that I was trending towards on Tuesday. Actually, on Monday, I woke up and I wasn't feeling it about Illinois' chances in 2026. I was someone who, in fact, I told you on the phone, I'd rather spend $75 to $100 million to build out the bench in the counties with precinct committee people, even if we had to spend money to make that happen. I'd rather fortify the Republican Party. I think I started saying this and I got sidetracked with the Restore Illinois. We can never restore Illinois until we restore the Illinois Republican Party. Right now,
amen to that.
We are a bunch of elementary kids or junior high kids. And she said, this person's not doing what they're supposed to do. And I agree. Some of it is founded. Tom DeVore has been putting out information that shouldn't be happening in the Republican Party. So now, granted, I think that an individual should get an opportunity to defend themselves, and they should. So if I were to make allegations against somebody, and I don't think it's about personality, it's about your integrity, your character. It's about your leadership. Bring people up to speed. Unfortunately, since I've been a member of the Illinois Republican Party, it's been a lot of infighting. In fact, they comment usually about the circular firing squad.
Yes.
And I think Michael Watley's going to hit that out of the park. I think Michael Watley's going to say, you know what the biggest problem in Illinois is? Republicans.
Yeah. We get in our own way.
Yes.
We get in our own way. And we spend all of our energy, all of our money, all of our fight, so to speak, during the primaries. And we go after each other, and we have nothing left then when it comes to the generals. Yeah. And that's where we lose. And people are so fed up with that, David.
I mean, a perfect example was that the primary of 2022 for governor, you had a billionaire funding a candidate in Richard Durbin to the sum of about $50-60 million. He was trying to mail in a victory. And then you had a candidate, grassroots candidate like Darren Bailey, who spent $8 million, I think is what he spent for the primary. And he blew Richard Durbin and another gentleman named Jesse Sullivan, a good candidate, away by 42 percentage points. Now, with a resounding landslide victory, similar to what Trump did in 24, you would think that the whole Republican Party would mobilize and get behind the candidate. And instead, they didn't.
They did not. They did not. And
that's got to stop. I mean, I'm one for primaries. I don't have a problem with primaries. The sad part about it is primaries, like you just said, waste valuable resources. Why don't we do what the Democrats do and put up a candidate that we know stands for the values of the Republican Party and the Republican platform, and not burn through cash during a primary, because right now that hasn't served us well, Jim.
Mm-mm. It has not. And until we change our direction, until we change that culture and figure out, what we're doing here as a party, we're never going to save the state, not in Illinois.
So
go ahead.
No, you go.
It has to be our main focus. It has to be our focus at the county level. It has to be our focus at the precinct level. It has to be the focus of the Illinois GOP leadership. Everybody has to be on the same page. We're never going to agree on everything, and that's fine. Reagan had 3 things that he ran his administration on. He avoided single issue politics. He built coalitions, and he built the party. And until we start building coalitions and building the party and avoiding the single issue politics, we're going to keep spinning our tires in the mud, and we'll never, ever win. We won't gain seats in the General Assembly. We won't gain the governor's office. So we have got to start doing those things.
The only thing I was going to say is you hit upon it. It's no different than being out at sea and changing course. It's a course correction. Sometimes you have to, if you're headed towards a major storm, which we're in a storm in Illinois as far as the Illinois Republican Party. I mean, you can't get any more buffeting than what we are. I mean, we're hitting waves. I mean, we've got organizations from the northern Illinois all the way down to southern Illinois. The infighting continues to show its ugliness. I mean, we're for the love of God, we are in the super minority in the General Assembly. That's not going to change. Well, it wasn't going to change, I didn't believe, in 2026. But now this renewed sense of hope that hopefully Darren LaHood does get into the U.S. Senate race. Hopefully we get a solid gubernatorial candidate. And this is no disrespect to any of the gentlemen who have already declared, guys, if you're not a precinct committee person yourself, if you haven't been working with an organization like Surus or any of them, and I have to put a plug in for Surus like you did, Jim, because they are doing a bang-up job of trying to get people involved, building within the county structure, the precinct committee model, by having it data-driven, knowing who the unreliable voters are, getting out, having contact with them, multiple contacts, being friends, making friends in your neighborhood. So if you're not involved with groups like that, what are your chances of realizing over 2 million votes? Because that's what it takes.
Yeah. And that's, to make that happen, to make that a reality, we have to get quality precinct committee people into these precincts. We've got to get them there. And we've got to train them. And that's the army that we're going to need to start turning the state red and start winning seats. And that should be the ultimate goal of every county chair in this state, is simply to win.
Jim, I've said it. I'll say it from this microphone until 2025 into 2026. If you have a political strategist, consultant, or political party talking about any other thing than 2 million votes and how we go about getting 2 million votes, which is the precinct committee men model, I wouldn't spend any time talking to those people.
No, not at all.
There's no strategy greater than the precinct committee person for the Republican Party. Any other discussion is a non-starter with me. I don't want to hear about it. I don't want to hear about grandiose ideas of what could be, should be. I just want to go to work and build out each county, mobilize the people we can, because we're limited in resources right now, and fortify the strong red counties. Just make them redder, make red counties redder and make blue counties a little less blue. And if we do that and we get more people to show up at the voting booth and we collect more ballots via vote by mail balloting, or getting people to turn out early during the voting season, which is 40 days right now, we can win in 2026.
No doubt. And that those precinct committee people, they are going to be key in going after those low propensity voters and getting them to the ballot box. They're going to be key in getting those ballots to the ballot box if they're vote by mail. So all these different facets, all these different things that we can do, and we can get there. We can turn the state red. But it's going to take a lot of hard work. It's going to take a lot of people that are committed to the same goal, and that is simply to win.
Jim, what's the website where people can get tickets for Michael Whatley on the 22nd of May?
www.taswellgop.org. And if you go to the calendar page and scroll down, you'll see the page for just click on the Lincoln Day dinner, and everything you need is right there, including my cool picture. And so it's all there.
Look at that. Mrs. Producer has already got it up in the comments, Miss section. Thank you, my beautiful wife. www.
Thank you, Tanya.
TaswellCountyGOP.org. You can get tickets. A guy like Michael Whatley is a once in a lifetime. Obviously, people like him, Ron DeSantis, who you guys have had. We appreciate all the hard work that the Peoria GOP or the Peoria County GOP and the Tazewell County GOP have done to bring such influential people within the Republican Party here. Jim, let's go ahead and wrap it up in prayer. I'll go ahead and hit us up now. Dear eternal and gracious Father, thank you for coming today and being a part of the DPB show. Lord, I can't do it without you. Lord, we can't do it without you. Continue to guide us. There is no greater light to follow than the light of Jesus Christ. Lord, open our eyes, open our hearts, open our minds. You have greatness. You want us to thrive rather than just survive. Lord, we don't want to survive in the land of Lincoln. We want to thrive. Give us the wisdom, give us the knowledge, give us the sense of purpose to seek out your way and your way only. We thank you for this past weekend, Lord, where it reminds us that you came, you sent your only son to this earth so that we all can be saved. Lord, if there's somebody out there listening to the DPB show right now that doesn't know you, prompt them to send me a message, to reach out. I'm accessible. I'd love to talk to you about what a life in Christ really is about. Lord, it's only through your blood that we have life eternally. We thank you for that. It is in the precious name of Jesus we pray. Amen. All right. Well, thank you, Jim.
Amen, brother. Thank you. I appreciate it.
And thank you, everyone that joined us today. Go out, like, share, subscribe, Rumble, YouTube, Facebook, and X. We will be back here on Tuesday. I don't know what's going to happen. I'm sure a lot of information is going to drop tomorrow, as it usually does in the news cycle. So we're going to be ready to take that on. But I always tell you that I love you. I know Jim loves you. But the best part about it is Jesus loves you more. Until next Tuesday, I bid you farewell.